Good morning. Today's dyno day. I'm a little nervous, but we should be all right. Currently at Protech Racing. We're about to connect it to the Dynocom. We're just missing some lug nuts, but it's a hub dyno, so it connects directly to the hub. But we're almost ready. Stay tuned for some pulse. On the first pull, so 1,000 on gate.
How you feeling?
Feel good.
1049 on gate.
Those days to make 1,000.
Yeah, man.
Now we make them on wastegate.
Exactly. Where's the chrome?
Look at my eyes.
Methanol.
Yeah, let's go through the log a little bit here. Let me record my screen. So we start here from the beginning. So we already warmed it up. If you see the temperatures, the coolant pressure is 5 psi. We got engine speed, it's starting to ramp up, but we can start a little earlier here. So here's before the pass. Just bear with me, I'm just still trying to learn how to use the Motec i2. But here's the start of the pass. Here's when he goes into drive and starts giving it some gas. You see the RPM, which is over here, starts at 3000. Throttle position is 100%. We warmed up the oil, so you got engine. Oil temperature is about 51 degrees. We always make sure it's about, starts from 50. Here you see engine cylinder head temp. I have a surface, kind of like a sticky that goes on the surface temperature on the head. So the coolant sensor, the coolant temperature sensor and the surface temperature, they correlate together. And if they don't match, the ECU will see that. So let's say the water pump stops working and the coolant starts rising. So the cylinder head temp sensor will see that. We lowered the base. The base is about 56 pounds of fuel pressure. We didn't think we needed more fuel pressure base because there's so much injector. IAT is pretty good, 30 degrees. Transmission fluid is pretty good, 64 degrees. Engine oil pressure is already at 50 over here, and we're only 2000 RPM. Crankcase right now is actually in vacuum. That's a crankcase pressure sensor. Now you're gonna see there's an offset of minus 14.7 psi. That's because the crankcase pressure and the inlet manifold pressure sensor, those are map sensors. So the Motec uses an absolute system. So you got from 0 to 100 psi absolute. So the log, you're gonna have to pull 14.7 psi for it to match. Okay. So yeah, so we start here. We can zoom in a little bit this way. So we're already at 6,000 RPM, 6,000 RPM, and we're still at 13 pounds of boost. And EGTs are pretty normal. You know, 1100 degrees. They're all kind of similar to each other. I have this one here as all EGTs. So once it's spooling up, you can see they're almost identical to each other. There's barely anything. I mean, you got 10 off there, 20 off there. I mean, that's pretty normal. So you can tell the plugs were brand new. There's no misfire. Let's go back to the other one. So spooling up, so we got 15 pounds. We're at 20 pounds of boost at 6,300 RPM. We're at 30 pounds of boost at almost 7,000 RPM. That shows you how laggy the setup is. I mean, it's a 98 millimeter turbo, and we didn't run any nitrous in this hit, so the nitrous would wake it up a lot earlier, but we didn't use it here. Once it hits, you know, 8,000 RPM, it comes to life. So you got 50 pounds of boost at 7,800 RPM, and it hits 60 pounds of boost at 8,300 RPM. Now don't forget, this engine can turn to 11,000 or more. So we got quite a conservative power band, so to speak. And with the nitrous, again, it will wake up a lot earlier. So at this point, we're at 8,300 RPM. The coolant pressure is still 5.8 pounds. So there's obviously that's good. It's not heating up. The engine temp is still good. Fuel pressure is at 124.5 psi. The transmission line pressure is good. IATs are relatively low. We have an ETS 6-inch intercooler in this car, working very well. Crankcase pressure is still in vacuum. Oh, sorry, 0.2. So it's starting to go positive at this point. Right at about here where it goes positive. So at 43.7 pounds of boost, it goes positive. If I had a 7-stage dry sump, we'll probably stay in vacuum most of the time, but I have a 5-stage. So I mean, it's typical. About half the pass, halfway around in the pass, it'll go positive, but not by much. It's a big venting system. It goes up to like 1 pound, which is nothing. So back to the pass, we're at 60 pounds of boost at 8,400 RPM. It actually starts dropping a little bit. We go to 58 pounds at 9,000 RPM, and by 95,000 RPM it goes down to like 56. I gotta set up the logging properly, but I can't show you guys the back pressure. The back pressure, when I looked at the other logs, it showed there was about 7% over boost. So at 55 pounds, you're about 7% over, which is still pretty good. Which tells me it might have a little more in it. But yeah, that's basically the log going through it. EGTs, there are little spikes here and there. I don't know if you see it down here, but it's not too bad. But that's after we let off, if you notice. You see it's pretty consistent here. 1100, you know, some of them spike up and down, but pretty consistent. So overall, I think the dyno went great. No hiccups. It ran beautiful. I mean, didn't misfire. The plugs were really good. Can't be happier, honestly. It's a lot of hard work, a whole winter of working on it. But yeah, so it's ready for some runs. Maybe the 26th, we'll go to CSCS and do some test hits and see how it runs. But yeah, thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.